Welcome. This is the Women's Bar Association of Illinois Cable Show. I am Judge Patrice Ball Reed, and this evening our guest is going to be Justice Rita Garman. She is the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. My co-host this evening is Judge Jessica Ron O'Brien, and she is going to begin the interview with Justice Garman. But I am going to start with giving some background on Justice Garman. She is a graduate of the University of Illinois, where she majored in economics, and she graduated with the highest honors. Subsequent to that, she went to the University of Iowa for law school. Her first job was at the Vermilion County State's Attorney's Office when she graduated from law school and passed the bar, of course. And after she was there, she decided she wished to become a judge, and she became an associate judge. Subsequent to that, she became a full circuit judge, which she ran for that position. And then she became an Illinois Appellate Court Justice in the 4th District. In 2001, she was appointed to Illinois Supreme Court, and during her tenure there, she has now become the Chief Justice, the second woman to hold that position. And we are so very proud to have her with us this evening. And so Jessica is going to begin her interview now.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Judge.
for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, as Judge Ball-Reed had indicated, that you were you went to school at the University of Illinois.
I did.
You majored in economics.
I did.
What made you decide to go to law school?
Well, I wanted to be a lawyer. When I was in high school, I decided that the law was very appealing to me. So I actually entered the University of Illinois in a joint degree program called Commerce and Law. And it was a program that would get you a bachelor's degree and a law degree in 6 years.
What's commerce and law?
Well, at that time, it was the precursor to business administration. So I entered the college, business college, in that program. In the first year I was in it, my advisor talked me out of being in the program. He said, well, if you get that far and you don't like law school, or law school doesn't like you, then you'll have to go back and pick up enough hours to have a major. So you're going to lose a year. So you're better off to pick an undergraduate major now. And then if you want to go to law school when you get out of college, then go to law school. And if it doesn't work out, then you really lost nothing. So I thought that was pretty good advice. So I changed my major then to economics. It was either going to be accounting or economics, and I selected economics, and always intending that I would go on to law school. I didn't think about it then, but I have subsequently wondering whether or not that male advisor I had gave me that advice because I was a young woman, and thought, how is this going to work for her?
So that was back in, what, 1961? When
It was 19, yes, when I entered the university.
Okay. And looking back now, I'm sure back then there were not many women attorneys, am I right?
Oh, not many women attorneys and even fewer women judges.
Okay, wow. Well, so from University of Illinois, you went to law school.
Yes.
Was there a specialty? Did you have a focus as far as the courses that you were taking after your first year in law school?
Not at all. The time I went to law school in the 60s, law school was very general. And they were very proud of teaching really theory. So there were very few classes that were what we see today with specialization. And in fact, there was not much emphasis on trial practice. At that time, it was kind of considered a secondary or lesser type of endeavor. And the law schools prided themselves on being institutions of higher learning. And so they thought if you were teaching trial practice or something, that was kind of less than what you wanted to do as a lawyer.
So you were in law school in 1965?
65 through 1968.
Okay. And back then, do you recall how many women classmates you had?
Well, at the University of Iowa, which was pretty typical of many law schools, there were 8 women that entered with me into law school. 5 of us graduated. There were about 170 men in the class.
Wow, that's like...
Is that 1%?
No,
less
than 1%.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and so 5 of them graduated. Do you know what they're doing now?
Well, one woman came back after having a career in government. She was on the East Coast, and her father was a lawyer in Iowa. In fact, he was one of the last lawyers in Iowa that got his law license by reading the law, just like Abraham Lincoln did in Illinois. And her brother practiced with her father in Manchester, Iowa. And so she came back to go to law school so that she could help out in the family law practice.
Didn't know that you're Chief Justice now.
No. And then one of the women, we had one African American woman in our class, one African American male in our class. The woman went back east to Washington, D.C., and I don't know what happened to her. I presume she went to work for the federal government. One woman came to Chicago and practiced law in Chicago, and the other woman went to the West Coast with her husband and lives in Washington, and I believe practices in Washington.
So while in law school, after law school, you went to the state's attorney's office.
Well, I actually started in the legal aid office.
Oh, okay.
When I got out of law school, I couldn't find a job, truly, because
How long was that?
well, it actually turned out to be a couple of months. But when I interviewed for jobs, they would say to me, "Well, what would we do with you? No one wants to talk to a woman lawyer. How could we can't possibly use your services? And you seem like a nice lady and all that, but it's not very realistic." The other thing that they talked about was, well, they'd say, "Well, your husband's a lawyer. How can you be a lawyer?" And I would say, "Well, because I am a lawyer." "Well, won't you go home and talk to your husband about all your cases?" And I said, "Not any more than he will come home and talk to me about all of his cases. We are both professionals." But people just couldn't imagine what that having a woman. They would say, "Well, you're really not serious about this. You don't intend to continue the practice. You won't practice law. You're just gonna, it's just gonna be a dalliance for you." So that was really the attitude. But first and foremost, it was no one wants to talk to a woman lawyer. They just couldn't imagine a woman lawyer as a viable person in a law firm. So it was very difficult. In fact, I interviewed with a bank here in Chicago as a trust officer, and I was offered a position. Another fellow in my class was offered a position, and he was offered $1,500 a year more than I was for the same job. And in 1968, $1,500 was a huge differential, because lawyers starting downstate were making about $7,500 a year. So that was huge. It was a huge differential.
We Equal Pay Act back then as well. Okay.
Yes.
Well, at this moment in time, we're going to take a break, and we will begin more interviewing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
May I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back. We are speaking with Chief Justice Rita Garman, the Supreme Court Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court, and we were previously talking about her background on her way to her Chief Justice position. So you were talking about working for, was it called LAF back then?
It was called the Vermilion County Legal Aid Society.
And you were working there.
I was.
And you rose to be chief of that office, or what happened?
Well, actually it was a one-person office, so I was
you
chief
were
and everything. When I went there, I was so young in the practice. I told them, "Well, what do I know about practicing law? I just got out of law school." And they said, "Well, if you'll come and help us, we'll help you if you need some assistance." And they were true to their word. And in fact, turned out to be my first mentors, really.
Excellent.
But I went to legal aid, and I found that the people didn't care that I was young, and they didn't care that I was a woman. They were just delighted to have some help. And it was a great way to start practicing law.
And from there you went to the state's
I
attorney's
went,
office?
well, after I'd been there about 10 months, the state's attorney came into the office one day and asked me if I'd be an assistant state's attorney. When I was interviewing for jobs, I couldn't even get an interview at the state's attorney's office. They wouldn't talk to me because I was a woman. But the state's attorney came in and said he'd like me to come and be an assistant state's attorney and handle the family cases, the juveniles and non-supports, mental health cases, parentage cases. And I think that's the way women really began integrating into the practice of law, was doing family law matters. People could kind of think about a woman in that milieu, and they could accept that.
So when you went there, were you the only woman?
Oh, of course. I was the only woman in the Vermilion County Bar Association for a long time. And of course, there were no women judges. There were no women on the Supreme Court, certainly, none on the Illinois Appellate Court, and very few women on the circuit courts of Illinois.
Now, what counties, well, what part of the state does Vermilion County cover?
I'm in central Illinois in the Fifth Circuit. We're due east of Champaign on the Indiana line, and there are 5 counties in the circuit. Vermilion's the largest. Would be Vermilion, Edgar, Clark, Coles, and Cumberland counties.
And once you were assistant state's attorney, how long did you stay in that office?
I was there 4 years, and then I decided to go into private practice, so I went with my husband's firm. But before I had done that, one day when I was in the state's attorney's office, one of the judges said to me, "Have you ever considered becoming a judge?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you should consider it." He said, "You have the right ability to do it and the right temperament to do it. And I think you'd really like it." So that planted the seed. So I began thinking about that. And then after I went into private practice, one of the associate judges retired. And I thought, well, I'll apply for it. The worst thing that can happen is I don't get it and I'm young in the practice. So I applied, and I was the successful candidate.
Excellent. Out of how many people?
I don't remember how many were in the applicant pool at that time, but I was just thrilled. In fact, my appointment was announced on Christmas Eve of 1973 on WGN News.
Oh, that was your Christmas present.
They announced that a woman had been appointed a judge downstate in Illinois.
Gosh.
So when I went on the bench in Illinois as an associate judge, there were 8 women statewide in all positions, and the vast majority, of course, were in Cook County. So I knew all the women that were judges at the time. When we went to conferences and so forth, we stuck out because we were the only women there. So they became my friends.
How long were you an associate for?
I was an associate for 12 years. And then one of the circuit judges retired, and I decided, well, I should run. That would be a natural progression for me. So I ran, and I was elected as a circuit judge. And I was the first woman circuit judge in my circuit.
Blazing trails for a while.
I have been. I've been to a lot of firsts. And then I was on the circuit court for 9 years. I was a trial judge, and then I was the presiding judge for 8 of those 9 years. Then in 1995, one of the appellate judges retired, and the Supreme Court asked me to go to the appellate court.
That's great.
So I went to the appellate court in 4th District. Again, I was the first woman on the appellate court. And then in 2001, when my predecessor, Justice Ben Miller, retired, he asked me to replace him on the court. So I went on to Supreme Court, and that was the only time in my career when there was another woman in the room. And Justice Marianne McMorrow, former Chief Justice, was in the room already. So it was a delight to serve with her.
That's wonderful. So you've been Chief Justice since 2012?
2013.
13,
yes.
Okay. And how long does that last?
It's 3 years.
So your time is almost up, but what things have you seen that you got there, and what things did you change that you thought should be different?
Well, I think the first thing that I noted was I thought we could do a better job of handling child cases. Because of my background in juvenile law, I was really concerned about the length of time it took our courts to deal with children's cases. And I was certainly sensitive to the fact that a year in a child's life is a very long time. For us, it goes quickly, but for a child, it's the difference between birth and walking, for example. So I proposed to the court with my colleague, Justice Thomas Fitzgerald, that he wanted to do something about the speeding up the appeals process. And I said I thought we should do a comprehensive review of the proceedings, entire proceedings involving children from start to the end, to see if we could come up with some rules and suggestions that would make the process more speedy, and still, of course, address the issues of due process and the necessity for careful deliberation. So we formed a special committee on child custody issues, and as a result of that committee, they were able to come up with a number of proposals that we subsequently adopted as rules, and I think things move along better. The Supreme Court now expedites children's cases too, so that we don't contribute to delay in our court system.
Excellent.
That's the first one.
We're going to take another break, and after that break, we'll talk more about your changes in the Supreme Court.
Okay, thank you.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We'll continue our discussion with Justice Rita Garman, the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. I've asked several questions, and I'm going to give Judge Jessica O'Brien an opportunity to ask some more.
I am going to go back to your comment about running for full circuit court judge, though.
Yes.
So you were an associate judge for 12 years.
Yes.
You decided to run for full circuit court. I heard you say that was a natural progression.
Right.
Was there a reason why you wanted to run for full circuit court?
Well, I thought when I would become a circuit judge, I would have more to say about the administration and how the cases were handled and how they were divided up. And I thought that was, and I would have the opportunity to hear different kinds of cases than I've been hearing as associate judge. In our county, in our circuit, associate judges hear traffic and misdemeanors, ordinance violations, and initial appearances on felonies and good traffic and misdemeanor work. So I wanted an opportunity to broaden my base and learn more.
The substantive areas, as
Right.
well as it seems like you said, you were a presiding judge in the 8 years out of the 9 that you were a full circuit court judge.
I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
So, and then when you were appointed to the appellate court chief, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well,
You were there for 4 years.
I was there 5.5 years.
Okay.
One of the appellate judges retired, and that was a difficult decision because at that point I'd been a trial judge for 21 years, and I loved it. I really did love it. I loved the work that I was doing. It was fast-paced. It was always something going on, and I was constantly in demand for various things, whether it was substantive law matters or administration matters. When one of the appellate judges, Judge Lund, retired, and I was offered the opportunity to go to the appellate court, it was a difficult decision because I thought, wow, I've really enjoyed what I'm doing in the circuit court level. Do I really want to go to the appellate court? But I thought it was a time to challenge myself. I thought, well, you've been doing this, come on, Rita, you've been doing this 20 years. You don't want to take things for granted. You need to challenge yourself to move ahead and keep progressing, keep developing. So I decided I would do that. And of course, being on the appellate court or the Supreme Court is entirely different from being in the circuit court because you don't have litigant contact as such. You're not at the scene of the trials and all of the proceedings that are going on, but you have an opportunity to really research the law, to look at what the law is, and also then to look at what the law should be.
So our viewers are not all attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that there are different skill set that you need to be an appellate court justice as opposed to be a trial court judge?
Well, I think there are different skill sets. To be an appellate court judge or a Supreme Court judge, you have to really enjoy research, you have to enjoy reading a lot, you have to enjoy being very deliberate because it just takes a while longer, and you have to be thinking about not only this particular case, but what effect that will have on other cases on down the line. Trial courts are consumed with the facts in this particular case and moving this case to conclusion and getting the right result. I always said in the circuit court, I had to be convinced that what I was doing was correct because I was the trial judge. When you get to the appellate court, there are 3 members of the panel, so you not only have to be convinced that what you're doing is correct, you have to convince at least one of the other 2 that your view should prevail. So it was an opportunity to challenge myself.
It's a different type of work.
It is a different type of work and much more isolated than being in the circuit court. In fact, when I went to the appellate court, my phone quit ringing. The only people that would call would be other judges that would call or staff that would call. But if I wanted uninterrupted time to study and research, I had that opportunity. You don't have that in the circuit court level.
So you were in the circuit court level for 21 years, and then the appellate court 5.5 years. So did you enjoy one side?
You know, I enjoyed both. I've enjoyed the experiences. I've told everyone all my life that I've had a wonderful career in the law, and I could have done whatever I did forever for an entire career and been a very happy and satisfied person. But I feel I've had the best of all worlds because I've had an opportunity to see the law from different perspectives and to grow and develop and to challenge myself.
So fast forward to 2001, you were in the Supreme Court. When you were appointed to the Supreme Court, did you ever dream that you would ever serve in this position? Well,
I never dreamed I'd be on the Supreme Court. Early in my practice, when I was in the state's attorney's office in Vermilion County, one day I was waiting for a court hearing, and one of the deputy clerks of the court said to me, "You know, someday you're going to be on the Supreme Court." And I laughed. I thought that was hysterical.
Is he still around?
No, and it was a woman, and she has passed away. But I just couldn't believe it, and I couldn't have imagined that would one day happen for me. It would be saying you're going to become a princess, or you're going to be.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale. I really thought you dare not say too much because people will think you're a little out of touch with reality. How's this going to happen?
It sounded though when you were in the LAF, when the state's attorney came to your office and told you you should join the state's attorneys, and obviously they found something in there.
Yes, they did.
And also when you were leaving the state's attorney, a judge said you should consider being a judge. Obviously, they found something in you.
Yes.
And what do you think that is?
Well, I think it's that I'm deliberate, and I think I have a pretty even temper, and I think I have an inquisitive mind. I like to make sure that I'm doing the best job I can, and that I'm studying and considering all the alternatives. I also think I'm never far away from the idea that the cases involve real people and there are real consequences to the decisions that we make. So we have to do the best job we can to do the people's work to give them finality and give them a way forward in their life.
So I wanted to focus now on the Supreme Court because I know there's a lot of things there that I'd like to explore. I think you had talked about expediting the process.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the normal course where when somebody's about to become chief, they have certain priorities of what they want to do, what they want to change in the system?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there were several things that I thought we should move forward on. One is we had started an extended media coverage program to put cameras in the trial courts. We've had it in the appellate and Supreme Court for a number of years. But the trial court, there was no media coverage in the trial court. So under Justice Kilbride, the court adopted a pilot program for extended media coverage. I thought this was very important for us to make sure our courts are transparent and also that the people can see how their courts operate. I think they get a skewed view of how courts really operate when you only watch some of the TV shows.
It's a criminal.
That's right. Or or watch Judge Judy or Judge Brown or something like that, you have a very different idea about how our courts really operate. So I thought it's a win-win situation. It's turned out to be a very positive thing. The other thing that I felt committed to was technology. We must move our courts forward to be paperless and to really catch up with the rest of the world and how business is transacting.
Well, I know we have the Commission for the Civility, Commission
Yes,
for Professional
Commission on
I'm probably
Professional.
butchering the name of the commission, but I know that that's what they're focusing on.
Yes, well, that commission is focusing on raising the level of civility and professionalism in our profession, and that really was started under Justice Thomas when he was the Chief Justice. But we continue to focus on encouraging lawyers and law students to be civil and professional. It's the Supreme Court justices go to the law schools in Illinois, and we ask sometimes with coverage from other judges to go and administer an oath of professionalism to incoming law students so that they realize that they're embarking on a profession, and even the way they conduct themselves in law school will have consequences.
This has been a great program. We will continue on another session with Justice Garman in the future. But at this point in time, we're going to end this particular segment. And thank you for listening to the Women's Bar Association of Illinois Cable Show.